Now, we're on to communication, ladies.
Right.
And if you look at page 3, you will see your coordinating team. That's at the top. You'll see you, which means PW moderator. To the left of that, at the bottom, it's your PWP district leader. And to the right side, your session. Now, which is the biggest of the 4? You tell me, which is the biggest?
You.
You. Yes, moderator. That means you have the bulk of the work to do. Okay? That's you. Communication. Now, this strictly means that if you are the moderator, there's a lot that you have to do. Like what? Tell me one thing.
I will say you have to lead is the one thing you have to do.
Leading the coordinating team, yes. And not only the coordinating team, but also the Presbyterian women circles in your congregation. Right?
Right.
Give me another one. Can you think of another one? You're doing it already, I'm sure, some of you.
You're coming to a meeting.
Tell us something else that moderators have to do in communication.
I think as a moderator, you need to, you delegate responsibilities to other people within your group, but then you also need to monitor those people
Delegation.
and
That's
communicate
right.
with them to make sure that they're on track. And if they need help from you, then you're there to support them and, answer questions or whatever. And as Janet and Mary Lou both said, communication is very important. You need to just, you don't just throw them the ball and let it go at that. You have to kind of keep
follow up. Yes, that's right. So the important thing is you have the bulk of the work to do. Because what happens? Material comes to you, and you in turn have to do what? Send it out, right?
Right.
Do you agree with me?
I believe you, Janet.
So in other words, you are leading the coordinating team and the Presbyterian women. You're planning with the coordinating team and you're communicating between Presbyterian women and other groups. And one of the biggest areas of that communication is getting people in your presbytery interested in joining PW. Do you talk with them? Do you talk with the people in your congregation? Talk to me now. Unmute yourselves. Do you talk to the people in your congregation about becoming members?
That's also something else that's very important. And you need to be willing to get up in front of the church, make announcements, and talk about what PW is doing. And because you are representing all the Presbyterian women in your church.
Thank you, Beth. That is so true. You need to be heard. Don't let your circles go to waste. You need to be heard. And that's a great part of communication.
Okay. Thank you, Janet. Next is page number 4, which is the job description for moderators in the congregation. Okay, accountability is the first line. To the coordinating team, to Presbyterian women in the congregation. Your congregation should know who you are. Everyone in the congregation should know that you represent the Presbyterian women of that congregation, not just the ones who have joined the circle, but you are to represent all the women in your congregation. Okay? And the purpose, I see the big word there, provide leadership to the coordinating team, of course, but also to the rest of the women in the congregation. And you should share in planning, which Beth pointed out, I believe it was Beth, anyway, that you want to share these things by having committee members to help you. Barbara pointed out, and you need to check on them to see that their plans are working. The congregation in your church should know what's going on with Presbyterian women in your church. And I think one of the biggest responsibilities of people who are representing the Presbyterian women is working to get new members to join in the circles or Bible studies, whichever you're calling them, to be involved with what is actually going on with Presbyterian women. Okay. Down at the bottom of the page. Yes.
Mary Lou,
Yes.
could I just say one little thing, please?
Right. Yes. Jen.
You were talking about getting up in front of the congregation. Another thing that I have done is, and I'm sure a lot of people, we have a weekly email that goes out about all of the activities at church. So I always put all of our activities in there. And also when we have had programs, not always, but we did one from a mission coworker that was in Moscow, and she came, and I invited the whole church to that. So we had men and women, and some ladies that were not in circles. So sometimes, if you think a topic might be something that everyone could totally relate to, it's good. We just invite our whole group, our whole church. So thank you.
Absolutely. Very good idea, Janet. Okay, down at the bottom of this page 4, the summary. You lead your coordinating team and, as Janet points out, the rest of the women in your congregation. You plan with the coordinating team the program of what you're going to do or are doing. And then our number one word for a moderator is communicate. Communicate between Presbyterian women and other groups, which includes the total population of your church. Okay, Janet, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Now, one little item I missed out in that, talking about communication. In order to communicate successfully, I don't have to tell you ladies that, but I'll tell you anyhow. Try being pleasant and assertive. Those two are very, no aggression, please. Just be pleasant and assertive. Good listening skills. Listen to what people tell you as well, and show empathy when it's needed. All right. Thank you for listening to me about that. The traits of effective leaders. Leaders must have some key skills. We all know that. Can you come up with one? Just one. Anyone? Key skills in leadership.
I think enthusiasm is important.
Very good.
You
Thank
have
you,
to
Barbara.
be excited about what's going on, and just presenting it instead of saying, well, you probably don't want to do this, but we're going to have this. That's not a good way to approach it. Say, oh, we're excited about we're having this meeting, or we're having this get together, or whatever you're going to be doing. You smile and you be enthusiastic about it, because that kind of thing can be contagious in a good way. But you have to have some energy about you in order to promote other people to pull on their own energy and get things rolling.
That's right. You have to lead them, and you have to show that enthusiasm. Anyone else? Ready? Yes. Thank you, Sandra.
I'm speaking as a Presbyterian moderator, but when I became moderator, it was right, during the COVID time frame. So some of the moderators I didn't know. We have 37 churches in our presbytery. I shouldn't say some, a lot I didn't know. So I couldn't go visit them because of COVID, but I started calling them and talking to them on the phone. And then as the restrictions regarding COVID lifted, I started visiting with them. And what I did was, my approach to them was, I'd like to come and worship with your ladies, and following the service, if you could give me 10 to 15 minutes, I'd just like to get to know you. I want to let you know that we care about you. I want to know what your needs are as a Presbyterian women group, how our Presbyterian women can support you. And those were my three interests, in going to visit them. And the caring was what really meant a difference to them. When I said, we care about you, that was very personal. So I think that's important. And following that, we had an autumn retreat, and it was the first one we'd had. And so many of them came, and they said, when they came, they said, we came because you cared. So that was an important aspect of the visit.
Very good. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. Do you agree with that, ladies? I'm sure you do.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else with any other ideas about leadership? You have it there on page 5. Which one strikes you? Let's hear. All right. Yes, somebody's ready.
Janet, I was just going to say, from what Sandra was saying, number 7 on this 12 traits.
That's right.
Is what? It's caring.
That's number 7. That's right. Number 7. And as far as I'm concerned, leadership, all good leaders have a vision of where they're heading, and they're working on achieving those goals. So you must be ready to find a way to get to those goals and be able to make good decisions. Now, they say that leaders are supposed to think strategically. What do you think is meant by that? Think strategically.
Well, that is to think more into the future, not just today. Make sure you're handling today, but be conscious of the future, but also be respectful and engage everyone, because it's not just going to be your ideas. And I think one of the things on that list was respect, and part of that is listening and being able to pull all that together and put together, where do we want to go? In some cases, we also don't want to repeat everything we've done in the past. I think one of the things we're all facing is if we continue doing what we've always done, we're not going to grow. So we've got to get in there and be a little bit more strategic about how do we grow things.
Exactly. Thank you, Beth. As a matter of fact, if you think strategically, you're also going to avoid many things going wrong. So it doesn't mean that things wouldn't go wrong, mind you, but then you will be ready to deal with the things that go wrong. And of course, a positive attitude. Do not be negative about anything. A positive attitude all the time.
Okay. Janet, Patricia Robinson has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Patricia, I didn't see you.
Okay. I also think that we need to, as Presbyterian women, also be very inclusive. And because we have so many younger women who aren't so interested because they see so many of us who are older, and they think we're set in our ways and that we're not as receptive to new ideas. I enjoyed the video. I think sometimes we are too what's the word? Rigid. Yes, rigid in our views. And so as a result, we leave out people who will help us to grow and who will take our places.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for that. Thank you for that. That's so true. And if we get the young people involved, they will realize that we're not so old after all. Yes, Barbara.
Yeah, and two things. One was along that line. We need to think, because all of us are sort of beyond being 20 years old, but we need to kind of try to remember back when you were working and had kids and a husband and other kinds of family situations. Possibly you had as I think about it, you're stirring a lot of pots all at one time, and young folks are really doing a lot of that. And particularly when if their kids are getting bigger and they've got soccer games and a lot of different activities going on, we need to try to gear our activities and maybe what the timing of things with the younger set in mind, at least some of the time. For instance, we have two circles at our church. We have what we call morning circle and night circle. And the night circle is pretty much designed to try to help include folks that work during the day.
Oh, yes.
And that helps a lot. I remember as a younger person, that was, we just met once a month for the Circle Bible Study, Horizons Bible Study book. Somebody can look after the kids one night a month, if you've got children that are small, which the younger ones would probably have. So try to, or maybe I know on the video, they had a meeting at 10 o'clock or something on Saturday, on the first Saturday. Of course, some people work on Saturday. It just depends. You can't meet everybody's schedule, but you do the best you can. So by meeting on the weekend, they're giving some more opportunities to folks who maybe work during the week. The other thing that I was wanting to bring up was about relying on your coordinating team, and let them be a sounding board. You've got your vision and your ideas, and they're probably really good ideas, but if you pull on that coordinating team that you have and make them feel free to discuss and
Hello?
Oh. Callie?
Hold on.
Yes.
Sorry, I just lost my internet completely. So,
Um,
We can hear you.
You can
We
hear
can
me?
hear you.
yes, I'm back. I'm back. Mary
Okay.
Lou, thank you. Over to you, Mary Lou.
Okay. Callie had something she wanted to say. Callie?
Yes, please. There's looking at this list, great.
Oh,
If you
okay.
worked in HR or even in education and things like that, you've got this list of traits. We used to say it some different kind of ways. Some of the things leaders need to have, some of the traits, we used to call it stick-to-itiveness. You know, you got a plan, you've got things that need to be accomplished. You can call it strategic, but there's also some tactical that may need to come in there as well. You need to be willing to learn. Sometimes you just need to observe what's going on. Step back a moment and look at things. How are they progressing? Maybe the problem is you. You know, the big you in that listing of order hierarchy was you. I'm, as a district moderator, I'm having to do the same thing. There's so much I would like to do, but if you don't get cooperation, sometimes you think it's everybody else, but it may be you. The other thing is, don't be a know-it-all. Some of us know everything. And my pastor who is a counselor, has a 4-letter acronym, and it's WAIT. And I want to have you guess what it means. It says, why am I talking? Why am I talking? Am I listening? And I taught kindergarten at one time. You've got 2 ears, and they've got one on this side and one on that. And it may seem a little comical what I'm saying, but sometimes you just need to be quiet. And I'm finished. I'm through.
Thank you, Callie. Thank you very much. Okay, I think that's enough for effective leadership. You go over back to Mary Lou.
Right. Okay, thank you. And why Janet and I are going over these things, we're not taking each one. We expect you will read through them and take what information you need from them. Because as we know, there's a lot of information about being a moderator. And that is where page 6 and 7 come in. This is to show you that as a moderator, you can be a moderator, and I don't know who was it that said they are. Was it Pat? That you are a moderator in the Presbytery? I don't know. One of you.
Yes.
It was Sandra. Yes.
Sandra,
you can see this. You could be a moderator anywhere, and you have basically the same things. First of all, leadership. That's the first function of any moderator. You can be a moderator in the congregation. You preside over the meetings and the gatherings. You basically just run the show through all those. Now, we will see later on, way back over on the right side, resources. You have the PW manual, communications, basic guides to speaking up, etc. And all that kind of information is available. Anything that you need to become a good leader as a moderator, PW has that information somewhere. And one thing you have to do, becoming a moderator, is to find out, where do I go if I need information on this subject? And that's one thing Janet and I are hoping you will be helped with. Okay, I don't expect you to read this whole page. We just thought it was important for you to see how the moderators in any position have basically the same things they have to do.
Mhm.
On the second page, page 7, the second one that we think is important is planning. And it is plan with the CT for all the things that you are going to do. And I think someone pointed out you have a committee, your coordinating team. Let them do some of your work. They each have responsibilities. They know what they need to do. Most of them are very smart. Many of them are way smarter than I am, is the way I figure it, especially when it comes to technology. So let your CT work for you and for the good of the group. And then if you will look down a couple more squares, what is it talking about? Communication. And that's the three things that Jan and I want you to understand. You have to lead, you have to plan, and you have to communicate with everyone. And I think it was Beth that pointed out, you may even have to stand up in the middle of the congregation and let them know what PW is doing in your church, or ask them to help PW do what needs to be done in your church. So those are the three things that we think you should get from these 2 pages. And I would say just take some time and go over page 5, 6, and 7. They have a lot of information.
Mhm.
Think you need it. Anybody have something they want to say about that? Okay. Okay, Jan.
Mary Lou,
Yes.
Mary Lou, this is Beth. I've got to bow out, but I have been reading through the presentation and the information you sent out, and there's a lot of really good stuff in there. And I think that's going to be really helpful. So I appreciate the work that went into presenting that. So I will listen to the recording later today. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you, Beth. Okay, Janet, you have suggested resources.
Yes, suggested resources. Now, this is a long line. But guess what it starts with? Tell me.
The
What
Bible.
is this? The Bible, thank you. It starts with the Bible, yes. And then, of course, the PW manual. Who's ever seen the PW manual? Put a hand up and let me see. PW manual, good. And there's a way that you could get one by putting in that information that's in brackets nearby. That's in parentheses. You can get one online.
And Janet, it will cost you $6, right?
Yes, it will cost you $6. And then the Atlanta Presbyterian Women website. Now, all these are resources. When you don't know something, you go to these areas and you find out. What's the next one? Number 4. Are you looking at me? Are you looking at it for me? Mary Lou sent this out to you recently. Because
Horizon magazine.
thank you. Horizons. And then number 5, birthday and thank offerings, interpretive materials are mailed to congregational moderators. Now it's in you're left to do what you know should be done with that. And what is that?
Collect money.
That's right. Communicate it to your city, to your coordinating team first, and then onward. Congregational Moderator Workshop. And that is the workshop that we're doing right now. And who do you have dealing with it now? Mary Lou and Janet Carmichael. So if there's a time that you need to find out anything, call us. You have the information there. And we may be able to help you. If we don't, then we will look it up for you. But then you can look it up for yourselves as well, right?
Okay.
Now, if you go over to the page 9,
Okay.
you'll see the sample timeline. Yes, Mary Lou, are you saying something?
That's okay.
You
Go.
see the sample timeline. Please have a look at that. It's very important because it tells you all that's going on within a year's time in your Presbyterian women. From June to May. No, we're not January to December. We are June to May, okay? And you see all the different things that are going on there. Take some time and look it through. And as it said below here, these are just suggestions, and you are allowed to tailor it to your congregation's specific needs and interests.
Okay.
Okay, Mary Lou.
Okay. Now we printed this out for you so that you have some names and numbers and what they do. If you're just starting out in PW, or if you've been there a long time, these are the people you need to know or know about. That's a lot of people just for our Atlanta PW. The elected leaders, in case you didn't know, they are actually elected by the CT of Greater Atlanta. The district leaders, all of you, I hope, have heard from a district leader. If you have not heard from your district leader, then here's her name and call her. She's supposed to be the link in the chain from the Atlanta PW to you as a moderator. If she has not contacted you, then contact her. She should be sending you emails, and we get a lot of emails from the Atlanta coordinating team. So if you haven't heard from her, I would have you call her. If you have an issue about that, call me. Okay, because you will see down on page 12, in the middle of the line, that's where I am. Okay, you can see, if you want to know about pathways, Mary Martin, in the middle of page 12.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly knows a lot about everything in PW. If you have a question that you don't know who to call, she might be a good person to call. Any technical things that I have, I call Kelly. So you can see all the people that are backing you up. helping you with your job as a moderator. Are there any questions on the elected leaders, etc., the group that's behind you to help you? Anybody have something to say or help to tell us? Okay, we just wanted you to have that to get you started. Okay, page 13, here are your district leaders again, and in case you don't know which one it is, you look up your church, and your church is listed under one of the district leaders. Just more information that you can have for your little packet of info. All right, does anybody have questions on that? Good. Now, as far as Janet and I are concerned, we have covered what we thought was good to cover in about an hour, and it's been about that time. So if you have questions on any of this that we are presenting here this morning, we'd love to have you speak up and ask while we're all together. I didn't see any hands up. Barbara.
It's not really a question. It's one thing. It kind of gets back to when you were talking about communicating with other groups, not just within your, of course, you communicate with your coordinating team there at your church and with the ladies, or really the congregation at your church. We try to include the men whenever we can on things because our church is not that big and we all have to pull together to get things done. But one thing that we do every year as a moderator, or I'm the moderator of the Presbytery, but I have been the moderator of our local church, PW, quite a few times too. And one thing that we do each year is the moderator puts together, along with the coordinating team's help, a calendar for the whole year. And we plot out the whole month by month, when the circle meetings are, what time they are, if they're on Zoom, if they're in person, pre-COVID, and we're hoping to get back to something else this coming year with our circles where we're going to be meeting at the church and also combine it with Zoom so that some of our folks that can't come in person because of health issues they've got, or maybe they're or we have a couple. We have actually a lady in New Jersey that joins us that used to be a member of our church that moved away, have been joining us on Zoom. So our goal this year is to incorporate Zoom and in-person meeting as a hybrid Zoom presentation, so that we can get together in person, but also include those folks that are out, not in town, so to speak. But to get back to the session, what we do is we have a calendar with all the different events, like the birthday offering, the thank offering. Go ahead and plug in a date for those things, the Gifts of Women Day or Women's Day, ever what you have. And then the moderator meets with the session in January and gives each session member a copy of that calendar for the whole year. And we get permission from the session to collect the thank offering and the birthday offering in the congregation in the worship service. You have to get sessional permission to do that, or approval. You can't do that in the sanctuary unless you have that, and so we go ahead and get all that approval done in January. And also is good to coordinate with the mission team on the session, because you have other offerings that occur during the year, like Caring Hands and I don't know, a lot of different things. You may do something for Thornwell or whatever, so that we can kind of spread our offering dates out during the year and not have too many too close together. And that's a good communication there. And we have tweaked our dates sometimes during that session meeting with the mission team committee head, so that we can coordinate that better. But again, that's just communication, and it also kind of gives you a roadmap of planning for the year. And so you can look ahead, and to me, and as moderator, you really have to look ahead 2 or 3 months ahead. You can't just I can't remember who said that, but you can't just stay right in the moment. And of course you have to do that, but you also have to have that long view too of what's coming up in the next 2 months, 3 months out. And this kind of gives you a roadmap for that, and it helps the session to kind of know what we're doing and when we'll be doing our different activities during the year.
That's good. That's really good. That's good. Ladies, I think we should make a note of that. Starting in January and knowing what happens throughout the year. Even though our year starts in when? May? But still, starting in January, and we know what's happening throughout the year. And that's getting people involved. As Barbara said, this is part of communication and so important. Thank you very much, Barbara. Thank you very much.
Anyone else has something they'd like to add? Sandra?
I want to go back to the thought about talking to people, ladies in the congregation, and encouraging young people to participate in PW. When I was our church PW moderator, I tried my hardest to try to get some of the younger people to attend the circles and our annual gatherings and so forth. And I didn't feel very successful in doing that. So just by accident, a couple of years ago, I was moderator of our pastor nominating committee. And I had a young girl on my nominating committee, and I've known her in church, but I didn't know her until I got on this committee. And then I saw her talents and her abilities. And so I thought, this is someone we need to tap into and, use those talents. So I decided to do a skit for our devotion at our pastor nominating committee. And I asked her to participate in it. She was thrilled. She just blossomed. And she did that. So then after that, we were having the Biblical Women's Fashion Show, and I asked her to model, and she did, and she just loved that. So one of the key approaches, I think, is to learn what our young people enjoy, learn what their talents are, learn what they enjoy, and then pull them into that area. I won't get her to a gathering. She does not like to come to meetings. She does not like to come to gatherings, but she would come to a specific project, or like our Biblical Women's Fashion Show. And she loved doing that. So I just thought I'd share that with you.
Right. That's great, Sandra. I think we've heard things like that mentioned this morning, that we have to be open to new ideas and not be afraid to open up to the women in our churches and get their ideas and try to work with them. And maybe they want a different kind of circle or a different kind of meeting. And that's one of our primary jobs in being a moderator, is listen and to pay attention to this kind of thing. We all are struggling with getting our young people involved, and I don't think there is a church that isn't. And we do have to listen to them and then try to lead them in the right direction where they would be comfortable and a great asset to our churches. That's wonderful, Sandra. Thank you for letting us out. Janet, did you have your hand up? Oh, okay. Is there anyone else that wants to add to this? The meetings are wonderful if we get info from them. But besides that, meetings are wonderful when we can see the people we're talking with. And actually, the best kind of meeting is one-on-one, two-on-two, five-on-five, in person, where we can get to know people and really get to know them. I have to say, Janet Carmichael and I have talked together because we've both been involved in PW work for a number of years. But until we could meet face by face and sit together and talk, we didn't really know each other. And I just want to thank her for the help on this. And we have found if we lived a little closer, we'd probably see each other very often. We're an hour apart. But that's one of the things I think that all of us miss about the PW over the last couple of years is we have not met in person, where we can get to know people outside of a screen. And I'm hoping that we will be able to, once again, be able to have CT meetings and circle meetings and all of the meetings that we do have to have in person. Does anyone else have something that they would like to add before we close out this presentation?
I'd like to ask one thing before we go, Mary Lou. Do we all have PW banners, and do we use them at any time? Because that's one way.
I think we all have them. I remember going to gatherings of the Atlanta PW and everyone walking in with their banners from the churches. Since we don't meet in person, we don't bring our banners with us.
Well, at our church, there was a time when the banner had a specific place. Dana, do you remember that? The banner used to be there in the narthex all the time.
I don't know where it is. I don't remember it. I'm sorry.
You see what I mean? You can't let it disappear.
I think I remember in our church a couple of times when we have a gathering, we usually have the banner.
Yes.
And when we have things like when we have our elections and we're in front of the entire congregation, right, we would have the banner up.
It's mostly to identify your group,
right? When
you go out with the others. But what I mean is, even when you're not trying to identify yourselves with among others, I still feel the banner should have a specific place within your church so that people don't forget what it looks like.
We can each take that up with our sessions, right?
Yes, I spoke with Julie, and she said, Julie said she had never seen it. The one at FPC. Anyhow, that's just by the way. So.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yes, Callie?
I'm sorry, I was a few minutes late kind of getting in because of my grandson. Did everyone introduce themselves? Would you allow that?
Well, I think we all have our names on our
Yes.
Yes, we do.
and our church, right?
We do. But sometimes we do all, if you do all the listening, just speak up and tell us how long you've been a moderator, or tell us something about you. And I want to thank Janet Utla for all of her help over the past. And I expect it to continue. And Ms. Montgomery and everybody else. But that's just me.
Well, Callie, I would love to do that, introduce each other. However, there's a bunch of us.
A lot.
I think there were 16 or so signed up. So I'm thinking that we had the opportunity to see each other and what church they are, and hopefully
No
we
problem.
can. Okay.
No problem.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Janet, Carmichael, do you want to pray us out of this meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
Redeemer God, we give you all the praise and glory for the good that has occurred during this time spent together. We ask that the information received today have a wonderfully positive impact on our PW days ahead of us. As we close, we give thanks for this community of believers who serve as your leaders. And for you, dear God, our living, dynamic, and communicating God. We thank you. In the precious name of your Son, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Hope to see all of you, if not in person, on a Zoom call again. I've had a wonderful time, and you now have our numbers.